Live from the Coachella Valley. Time for another hour of the desert scene. Art exhibitions to modernism. Music festivals to live theater. Big screen, little screen, and very little screen. This is the Culture Corner with Bonnie Gilgallen and Brayan Mendoza. Here's Bonnie and Brayan on iHub Radio.
And good Saturday morning to you, and welcome to the Culture Corner, our new 2-hour version. I'm here with Brayan Mendoza, my co-host, who's fabulous. He previously hosted Flicks and Picks, and now we've joined forces. So now we do theater and music and film and all kinds of stuff. But since the show is called the Culture Corner, we also sometimes talk about what's going on in the world. And God knows there's a lot going on in the world right now. Of course, the big news in the last 24 hours has been the very sad passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg from the U.S. Supreme Court, and everyone was hoping that, I know she was hoping to hang on till past the election. She's dealt with cancer, many health issues, but she didn't quite make it. And of course now, in addition to mourning her and her legacy, everyone's really up in arms about what's going to happen with the Supreme Court. And of course, you know, the Republicans back in 2016 when Scalia died in February, 9 months before the election. McConnell said, nope, we're not going to approve anybody. We're going to hold the seat open for 9 months. Forget it. We're not doing it. It's election year. But of course, now it's 45 days. And of course, they're totally switched gears. Totally, 100%.
You know, it's one of those, it's going to be a very contentious time before the election. It's already difficult. This is another thing that's going to be further divisive.
Yep.
And it's almost sad because you want to mourn this woman's legacy. You want to actually sit there and talk about her accomplishments.
Take a moment, yeah.
Yeah, sit and actually relax and, you know, have these wonderful conversations about her legacy, how she fought so much against discrimination of the sexes, watch a couple movies, documentaries, read her books, memoirs, all the typical stuff you do when someone dies.
Yeah.
All this wonderful stuff, right? And then it just turns out that there's, unfortunately, a very politicized element to her death, and I think it's really sad because when someone dies, right? When someone dies, there is a real, it feels like it should unify people when someone as like
important to this country, yeah.
And heck, even I'm trying to think pretty recently of a death, but like George Bush's death, or
John McCain, even John Lewis, Elijah Cummings. There have been a lot of folks, you know.
No, definitely. Those folks right there, their deaths weren't super politicized because they were away from politics. But her death just means a lot of things. And it's a lot of things to process. And the fact that a lot of people in the Senate, I'm just going to say a lot of Republicans, they really want to take advantage of this.
Yeah.
And I think that if it was let's just say if it was a conservative judge with a Democratic Senate, like, I wonder when did that happen, you know, back in 2016.
Yeah.
They definitely were on the side of let's be respectful, let's let things pass, let's not have the person who may or may not get elected decide our future, because the Supreme Court justices, they are important. People forget
decades. They're on. Many stay for decades, and change our laws and our policy, and it's important.
I think it's and the sad thing is that there's a lot of Ruth Bader Ginsburg was someone who upheld women's rights and upheld LGBT rights and all that. And for us, the thing would be that we lost a real hero in that sense. We lost someone who actually invested time in that. Now, of course, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, you know, let's not whitewash her history. She's had some controversial moments, like with the Colin Kaepernick moment, but, you know, this is about, you know, the greater person. I like to say, like, that what the person actually accomplished over the years.
As a whole. Well, I was impressed. I don't know if you saw it, because I was watching, you know, MSNBC and Rachel Maddow and all that. The huge crowd that gathered outside the Supreme Court last night with candles. I mean, that's pretty unusual to have a huge crowd just spontaneously show up at the Supreme Court when a justice dies. I mean, that just shows you how beloved and popular she was.
No, definitely. And I would say, too, is that with Ruth Bader Ginsburg is that she became such a powerful figure over the last couple of years because of this famous meme called the Notorious RBG.
And she loved it. She thought it was funny. She really got a kick out of it, you know, which I think is great.
I think she said the difference between her and Notorious B.I.G. had was that I think they were both raised in Boston or something like that.
I don't know. Could be. Yeah.
And it was something like that. And I thought it was like the funniest thing. And she held on. She really did.
I know. And I know she wanted. And the other thing that's so disgusting about Mitch McConnell's statement they came out with, she dictated a note to her granddaughter like 2 days before she died. And all it said was, my most fervent wish is that I not be replaced until after a new president is installed. She asked for that on her deathbed, and they can't even respect that. And I think it's really sad and disgusting.
You know, I laugh because it's so shocking, because you would think people would be human enough to realize, okay, we got to respect this woman who's been on the Senate the longest of all of us, and have an actual, honestly, thoughtful conversation about how to proceed. Mm-hmm. Should we let the American public decide who will be the next Supreme Court justice? But it becomes a thing where they politicized it, and unfortunately, that's the world we live in sometimes, is that they will politicize things that should be unifying instead of divisive.
I would like to, and I'm hoping some brave reporter will, corner Mitch McConnell in the hall or something next week and say to his face, why in 2016 was it important to let the American people have their say and vote for the president, and it's not now? I would love for some reporter to get in his face with a microphone and see what he says. What is he going to say? Well, it's not. Well, things are different. It's not. What is he going to say? What is his excuse going to be? There is no excuse for that. The only excuse is we're in power now and we're going to do what we want. That's it.
That's the only. Honestly, that's probably the one excuse they're going to have is it's different this time. Obama was
based on what?
Was an oligarch or something like that.
Oh, well, which is absurd. Yeah, absolutely absurd. And I heard on these shows last night, the 9 months or whatever it was, 400 days or whatever it was, that they held open this Supreme Court seat in 2016 was the longest they'd ever done it since the 1860s. It had never been held a seat open, vacant that long since the 1860s. Now, what does that tell you? I mean, they just did it to be contrary because they didn't like Obama and they just wanted to be ornery. I mean, it's just, but I am forcing myself to stay positive and not go there and just thank you, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Mitt Romney, and the other one, Chuck Schumer or somebody else. No, Grassley, I think it was Grassley. Who are the four that Republicans have already said we will not go ahead and vote for a Supreme Court justice. It's too short a time. I'm hoping some others come out. I'm hoping some others have the guts to say this is not right.
No, I definitely agree with that we need to get to a point where we can have like Republicans or people like that who understand that, hey, maybe it's not about party or politics. It's about respecting the American public.
You think? And maybe?
I love that. The thing would be that it should be about letting the people decide that. Absolutely. I mean, I think most people kind of understood the logic behind the Obama idea, which is, oh, well, we're going through an election. Let's wait until things kind of cool down a bit. But
9 months. They weren't even close to the election. Now it's 45 days. So how... If that's your logic, if that really, really was the logic behind, then there should be no question that you don't want to do it now. 45 days? The country is burning. People are dying of a virus. The racial unrest, protests. Half the country's on fire. There's other things to focus on than rushing a Supreme Court justice through. I'm sorry.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think the most important thing is to... I don't know. Like, that's the thing. It's really difficult to say because, like, when it comes to, like, the Supreme Court justice, I don't know what we can do about that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like a little powerless because I want to protest and I want to make sure people, like, I want to send a message out to Mitch McConnell and those people not to do that, not to do all that. But it's so confusing because the public has very little say in the Supreme Court justices.
Yeah. Well, I guess you could call the office, send letters, emails, whatever. Yeah, our only hope, I think, at this point is to pray that some more Republicans do the right thing. Yeah. That's we just got to pray for that. And yeah. I am envisioning that, and I'm envisioning Joe Biden winning the election because I have to go there. I have to stay. That's the only way I can stay positive, is envision that that's what's going to happen. You know, I have to.
And also hope that Democrats are a little bit more willing to, I'm going to say, be a little bit more firm against this.
Oh yeah, they got to stay fight. Yeah.
And the thing would be also, I'm trying to think. I don't want another Brett Kavanaugh situation where it seems like, for me at least, I don't know if you felt this, that I did not want Brett Kavanaugh. And for me, I felt like, there's a pretty good chance that all these accusations and everything they're pretty clear. It's pretty cut and dry, and then he gets confirmed anyway.
Yeah.
So I felt powerless ever since that, and I was hoping that Ruth Bader Ginsburg would stay as long as she could, and that poor woman should have had a retirement.
But she stayed. Her work ethic. People said her work ethic. So she issued a decision the day after her husband died. Her husband died at home. She was at work the next day rendering an opinion. She had lung cancer, colon cancer. I mean, she had every cancer there was, and was never missed a day at work except maybe once when she had a surgery or something. But her work ethic was amazing, and she just was strong and fought because she knew how important this was, and she tried as hard as she could to stick around. But like I said before we came on the air, I read on Facebook that because she was Jewish, and I don't know, is it Rosh Hashanah? Forgive my ignorances. I know there's a Jewish holiday going on right now. I think that's it. That she died the eve of that, and that there's some old belief that a Jewish person who dies then is going to is very special, first of all, and it's going to bring in new understanding. And so I'm got my fingers crossed that that's what happens.
And like I said to you, she's a very special person.
Mm-hmm.
Very wonderful, special person. And some other facts about her would include that she was the first Supreme Court justice to officiate a gay marriage.
Love that.
And she was top of her class over in Harvard.
And she couldn't get a job after she graduated from law school because she was a woman. Nobody wanted to hire her. And
so a lot of her cases were ACLU, very civil rights cases, which at the time they're not going to, like, I don't know if they're even perceived today as being worthwhile cases. I mean, they're perceived as cases that don't make money. Mm-hmm. They're cases of, no one else wants to do it, so go ahead and do it. Right. And she honestly managed to do that so well. Mm-hmm. And the fact is that there's some confusion, she is the second woman. Yeah, but first Jewish woman. First Jewish woman, of course. Yeah. And the thing about Ginsburg is that she actually gained a lot of respect from conservatives over time, and maybe not right now, of course, but like... one of my favorite quotes of hers, I love, someone asked her once, when will there be enough women on the Supreme Court? And she said, when there are 9. And I love that. Great quote. Rest in peace, Ruth. We miss you, and we're keeping our fingers crossed Republicans will do the right thing. We're going to be back with Thom McMorris in just a minute on the Culture Corner.
You're listening to Bonnie Gilgallen and Brayan Mendoza, talking arts and entertainment on iHub Radio's The Culture Corner. Here are Bonnie and Brayan.
And welcome back to The Culture Corner. I'm Bonnie Gilgallen here with Brayan Mendoza. And on the phone we have Thom McMorris, who is a buddy of mine, a wonderful cabaret singer. I've done a couple shows with him at Frankie's Old World Italian Bakery and Supper Club. And he is doing a live stream tonight. Hey, Thom, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, the last time I was actually on a stage was with you at the Valentine's Day show, so it's been a while.
That was so much fun. Yeah, we did that rock and roll Valentine's show. So tell us about, do you have a theme tonight? Tell us about how you pick the songs.
Well, I have a very loose theme. I'm doing all love songs, kind of classic love songs. things like They All Laughed by the Gershwins and But Beautiful, Love, Love, Zing With the Strings of My Heart, Don't Get Around Much Anymore.
Great.
Some standards for the people.
Okay, and now I saw Thom did a wonderful one-man cabaret show back before the virus called, I think it was Teach Me Tonight, and you're a former teacher, correct?
Yes, I taught here in the Valley. I taught in Desert Hot Springs, 2nd grade, and I've taught in Chicago, around the country, about 25 years. I retired, and I've been lucky enough to get some singing gigs and kind of enjoy this hobby that I've had.
And tell me, now, so did you sing when you were younger? Has that always been a hobby? Did you sing professionally before you started teaching, or how did that evolve?
I did do shows. My mom was a dance teacher, and so I grew up tap dancing mostly. I did not start singing until I moved to Chicago after high school and started doing, chorus boy work. I didn't focus much on my voice though until I moved to Palm Springs, and really fell into a great group of people, and things just kind of progressed. It's been a fun journey.
And so, how would you describe your style, your singing style?
I think of myself as a jazz singer, I guess. I like to do standards. I like to do love songs, but I do like to swing them. I like to try to find new ways of approaching a lyric and approaching the melody. I guess a jazz singer.
Okay, and do you study? Do you study with anyone, or are you somebody that sings a little bit every day? I know it's good to stay warmed up. I'm a singer also, but I don't sing every day. But so do you? Do you have
I do. I sing. I do sing pretty much every week. I wouldn't say every day. Mm-hmm. I was studying, the wonderful Lori Donato, who we lost last year.
Yes,
she was my coach and my mentor, and really helped me find my voice. I've not been working with anyone. I did work a little bit with Jerome Elliott when we did. We're getting ready for my show. He stepped in and gave me some pointers, but kind of on my own right now.
And so, who do you listen to? Who do you think of as your influences as far as singers?
Well, I love Sinatra, of course, and Mel Torme, Bobby Darin. But I have to say, my very favorite singer, my favorite vocalist is Sammy Davis Jr. His styling, his way with the lyric just speaks to me. I was lucky enough to get to see him do "Stop the World, I Want to Get Off" when I was still in high school, and it just moved me. One of the most moving nights of theater I've ever been at.
Yeah, he had some pipes. I was lucky enough to see him. I saw him at the Kennedy Center years and years ago when I was a kid with my parents, and he was phenomenal. I mean, we were way up on the balcony. We were far away, and he did Mr. Bojangles, and it was just what an amazing performer he was. My goodness.
Oh yeah.
So tell me, once the virus is gone, once we're all back opened up again, I'm sure you have. Do you have another big cabaret, one-man cabaret show in your head that you're kind of working on?
I actually do, believe it or not. I have been working on a show that I'm calling P.S. I Love You, The Observations of a Nosy Postman. That is
I love that.
The working title right now. So I've been gathering songs. I'm trying to sing a lot of new things, and I've talked to Joel Baker a little bit, who is my pianist this evening.
He's wonderful.
He's wonderful, and I'm hoping he'll be my musical director for this show.
Excellent. So how can people watch? Remind them how they can watch tonight.
They need to get to Frankie's website, which is Frankie oh my gosh, I'm not sure of the website address.
I think you can go to hit the Frankie's Facebook page also. Frankie's, I believe, has a Facebook page.
Yes, if you go to Frankie's Facebook page, or if you're not a friend of Frankie yet on Facebook, go and Google Frankie's Cathedral City, and it'll come up. You go there, you friend them, and then you can watch. It'll be showing this evening at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. And it's about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, something like that?
Yeah, about 25 minutes, 5 songs and a little patter, and I talk a bit about Project Bread for musicians, which we're performing for.
Yeah. And that's if you come by Frankie's and bring a gift card or some money, it helps local musicians, and then they get a free loaf of bread, right?
Right, they do, and it really is helping out local musicians who are having a hard time with so many gigs being canceled and venues shut down.
Yeah. Well, Thom, break a leg tonight. I'll be watching Thom McMorris on the Frankie's Facebook page or website. He's wonderful. Check him out. Live stream. Have a great show tonight. Thank you, and we'll be right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We'll be back on the Culture Corner.
The curtain rises on local and regional arts and entertainment. From music to theater, films to fine art, it's the Culture Corner. Get connected. Call 760-544-TALK. That's 760-544-8255. Here's Bonnie and Brayan on iHub Radio.
Hey, welcome back to the Culture Corner. This is Brayan.
Hey, and Bonnie.
Bonnie.
So tell us about who we have next and what's coming.
We have Annie Houchenauer. She is a representative over at the Transgender Health and Wellness Center over in Cathedral City, and they've just opened up a new office in Riverside. How are you doing, Annie? Can you hear us?
Hi. Yes. I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you for being here. So set up the story. What we're talking about, Brayan.
So, a lot of people are familiar with the name JK Rowling, right? So now this is a case where, unfortunately, we're familiar with that name.
A Harry Potter book. She's made a fortune. Yeah, okay.
Harry Potter books. And she's also written books under the name Robert Galbraith, under a male pseudonym, which is interesting because in the 90s, she used to complain about people confusing her for a male writer. And actually, a publisher told her that if people thought that if a man wrote the book, Harry Potter,
they'd be more likely to buy it.
Yeah, and now she's using a male pseudonym because she wanted to test the waters if that was true, and now she writes it under that name. So interesting, but we'll leave it at that. But over the last couple months and years, actually, J.K. Rowling has received a lot of in my opinion, criticism, and rightfully so. For very anti-trans comments, and she has recently written a book called Troubled Blood under Robert Galbraith, where she writes about a this is a quote, quote-unquote transvestite killer, which, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, transvestite and transgender are not interchangeable words. They're not the same.
Exactly.
Not the same. Yeah.
So I wanted to get some thoughts from you, Annie, on the J.K. Rowling situation. What do you think this situation means for the trans community and their allies?
Well, I think it's just awful. It's very dangerous because she's such a popular author, and she's come out with all this transphobia, and it's dangerous, especially because some of the things she's saying, which is women won't be protected in bathrooms and things like that. And it's already really, really difficult for trans people to feel comfortable in public using bathrooms, and this just makes it even more dangerous for them. So that's my take on it.
Would you also say that this specific? Now, I don't know if you've ever seen Good Morning Britain. Are you familiar with that show?
No, I'm not.
So on Good Morning Britain, they had a discussion which I thought was not constructive at all. I thought it was very bad. But in one of the parts of it was that Piers Morgan said that if the killer in the story is not specifically a trans woman, how is this harmful to trans people? Now, would you say that the book perpetuates a stereotype in which a Buffalo Bill type stereotype, or even though...
Yeah, Yeah, it's just the trope. It's an anti-trans trope that has been around for decades. And it's really aimed at my gender identity, which is trans women. And there's this idea that, men are going to, because the culture is now more accepting of trans people, that men are going to take advantage of that and put a dress on and go around and kill people because they can get into, female spaces. And that trope is just so ugly and so wrong. It's unbelievable that she has taken this position, JK. So go ahead.
Annie, hi, this is Bonnie. I have a question for you. Do you think this is just her comments and people who come up with this kind of stuff? Do you think basically it's just all based on fear of the unknown? Or what do you think is the origin of this kind of attitude?
Well, I just don't know. I mean, that it raises all sorts of questions, psychological questions of why a particular person would pick out a very small group of people and hate on that group, if you will. And so I don't know if there's an easy answer here. Mm-hmm. I think that that because there has been more trans visibility in recent years, I think that has created this backlash. Mm-hmm. And so, when it comes to Rowling, I have no idea why she would do that. There other people, they might have motives of being part of a group or, trying to make money off of it, like that one Abigail Schreier's book about the transgender craze. And so it's hard to fathom, especially Rowling in her beautiful writing, her beautiful books, that she's now carved out this position for herself it's hard to fathom why that is. And I think a lot of her readers think that,
Yeah, I think she's hurting herself. I think she's going to damage her career. And it's like, why doesn't she just keep quiet? If that's what she thinks, I think she should just keep quiet about it, frankly.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And for me, it's especially harmful because she has so much power in the TERF community, which, for those who don't know, the TERF community is the trans exclusionary radical feminist, which, by the way, for me, if you're a feminist, you shouldn't exclude trans women. Trans women are women, that's the thing.
Right.
And the thing about her is that she has all this power and stuff, and she makes so much money off of books and all that. Her Robert Galbraith books, when it was revealed that she was the writer, they sold 500% more.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the fact is that her books, the Harry Potter books, talked about prejudice and not harming people, and so some people have said she went from being Hermione to being Dolores Umbridge, and I think at this point you can say she's a Voldemort.
So she's very hypocritical,
right.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was gonna ask, have you heard? For those of you who don't know what's her? Annie, I think you said her name. The woman who wrote the
Abigail Schreier. Yes.
For those who don't know,
Irreversible Damage, the transgender craze seducing our daughters. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, for God's sake.
So, without getting too much...
I know, with the title alone.
I know, that's enough. That's all I need. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, I don't want to read it.
So, for those of you who don't know, the book itself also had a lot of controversy because you can tell what the book is about by the title.
Absolutely.
But this woman tricked a trans YouTuber named Chase Ross into doing an interview with her and twisted his words. And and I think that was a terrible situation. And honestly, that's one. And honestly, I went to Barnes and Noble and I wanted to take a look at the book, and I looked at a couple of things and I realized that it's a waste of time to even try to seek out. Don't spend money on this. I mean, you can hear this rhetoric. It's a worse version of the rhetoric on, I'm going to be honest, Fox News or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so, honestly, I wanted to ask you, what is about specifically, because I think we should talk about the Transgender Health and Wellness Center. Now, what are some resources that are going on right now in spite of COVID? I know when I used to volunteer there, and I used to go there, there was Trans Mondays. There was Bongo Johnny Mondays and stuff like that.
Right.
So what's going on?
Yeah.
What are some ways we can help out the trans community at the Trans Center?
The pandemic has limited our public gatherings, and so we used to have AA meetings and social meetings at the center, and we don't now because of the pandemic, and hopefully that will change. The main thing that we do is we offer a safe space for trans people, and we're still offering mental health counseling and name change counseling and job counseling. Will help trans people prepare resumes. We're still doing hair removal, which is vitally important for trans women. And one thing that we do that maybe some other places don't do is we navigate insurance with trans women. So the insurance companies will, pay at least for part of it. And, and so we, refer to trans people to medical care, of course, and we're still offering emergency assistance to people that just show up, and we have clothes and food and all that.
Do you think that in spite of JK Rowling and other crazy people like her and that kind of attitude, other than that, do you feel like there's been progress, a little bit of progress in acceptance of, I was telling Brayan before, I don't care who anybody loves and who anybody has in their bedroom. It doesn't affect me. And it's like, live and let live, for God's sake. But do you feel like there's been more acceptance or not lately?
Yeah, I think there has. If you take a longer view, like a 5-year view, I think there's a lot more trans visibility, and I think there is a lot more acceptance. But again, as I mentioned before, I think along with that has come, a vocal backlash.
Yeah.
And so I see that. And we just did a survey. This is important to know. We just did a survey at the center of 109 transgender people, and over 80% of the respondents have had suicidal thoughts, and 52% of the respondents had attempted suicide. So I think the trans community is still struggling with mental health issues, and I don't think those have been appropriately addressed. But yeah, I'd say overall, it's safer to be trans than it was 5 years ago.
Have you seen Disclosure?
Yes, I have.
What are your thoughts on that one? Because I thought it was such a wonderful documentary. What are your thoughts on that documentary?
Yeah, it was lovely. Again, and it's part of being visible, which I think is just so important for trans people just to be seen going about regular lives. So in that way, it was really good. And the other way, where it shows, Disclosure showed a lot of depictions, these awful depictions of trans people. And I had totally forgotten about the movie The Crying Game. Oh,
yeah, I remember that. Wow.
Yeah, where the one scene where the guy has kissed the trans girl or whatever, and he has to shower and throw up and all that.
Oh, good Lord.
And so and I had forgotten about all that, just how, trans people throughout the years have been, depicted in these awful ways. And obviously I think that is changing.
I hate to cut you off, but we're ending our segment. But what is the best possible way for us to reach the Trans Center? Would be the website or the Facebook page? What would be the best possible?
Yeah, I think that the website would be the best place to go to. Transgender Health and Wellness Center in Cathedral City. And all of our contact information is there, and a list of services, and yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. You were really enlightening. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
We'll be back.
Thanks for having me on.
We'll be back in
Bye.
the Culture Corner in just a minute.
You're listening to Bonnie Gilgallen and Brian Mendoza, talking arts and entertainment on iHub Radio's The Culture Corner. Live from the desert cities of Southern California, here's Brian and Bonnie.
And we are back on the Culture Corner. I'm going to talk a little bit about news. And I thought, coming out of the segment we just did, that I wanted to touch first on. Brian has all these great news stories for us. Saturday Night Live has hired its first out black lesbian cast member, and I think that's fabulous.
Oh, it really is, honestly, Bonnie. So for the 46th season of SNL, which is going to premiere on October 3rd, it will include our first black openly out cast member, and her name is Punkie Johnson. That's a great name.
I love that. Yeah, that's cute.
That's such a great name. She calls herself a brutally honest Southern lesbian. She is a New Orleans native, and she is considered a triple threat because she does stand-up comedy, she can act, and she can write.
All right.
Now, she actually performed pretty regularly at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, and was actually considered a new face at the Just for Laughs festival in Montreal.
Okay.
And so she has appeared in a couple TV shows and web series and short films, including the TV show Space Force, which is on Netflix now. The show itself has mixed reception, but, that's still something,
Yeah.
You still did.
She has some credits, yeah.
That's some credits right there. And I would also say that whatever you got to do to expose yourself, whatever you got to do. She also had a role in the movie The Ride. I haven't seen that movie, but it has premiered at the Sundance Film Festival.
The Ride, R-I-D-E?
Yeah, R-I-D.
I'm not familiar with that. Yeah.
Me neither. I'm trying to figure out what that movie is. But it was at Sundance, and she also played a lesbian bar patron in a skit called The Dance Biter over at a Black Lady Sketch Show, which is a sketch show over at HBO that tries to give black voices and a real chance. And she has often considered herself she actually called herself once a child with adult bills. And
I love that. I love a child with adult bills. I'm gonna have to remember that. That's great.
And the thing would be that apparently while she will be the first out black lesbian performer, she is not the first. It was Denitra Vance who was on the show in 1985 and 1986.
I remember that, yeah.
And she, but nobody knew she was out at the time. Mm-hmm. And I don't think she was one of the ones people speculated about. I think she just didn't tell anybody.
And that was a while ago, so things have changed. Outlooks have changed a lot. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think she would be an out lesbian
today if she wanted. Yeah.
And the thing would be that she and Kate McKinnon is actually the first out lesbian just in general too.
I think she's hilarious. I love her. Yeah.
Now that's someone who, when she came into SNL, that's somebody that actually made SNL worthwhile again.
Yeah. She's very talented. Yeah.
My favorite character of hers is Hillary Clinton.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it makes you kind of wish things went a certain way because she would have had a bigger role. But
yeah, not too much funny about the White House anymore. Not really funny. Yeah.
And so the thing would be that we must also include Denny Dillon, who was on the show for one season in the 80s. Overall, she might have actually been considered the first overall queer woman, but she didn't actually come out until way later. So I think that Denny Dillon is the first overall lesbian woman, and then Kate McKinnon was the first out woman, and Denitra Vance was the first black lesbian, but she was not out. Now Punkie Johnson's the first out.
All the way out, yeah.
It's like we got to make all these accomplishments distinguishable.
And it's like step by step.
And, the other cast members are Lauren Holt, a actor, comedian, singer, and improviser, and Andrew Dismox, who has been an SNL staff member since season 43. So there's a couple new people coming on, but I think Punkie Johnson is the one that has the most
potential to really
stick out and all that. And she's already on a sketch show, so I'm thinking, well, this isn't a bad place to end up at.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's. I also want to talk about Carole Baskin on Dancing with the Stars. First of all, I am not watching Dancing with the Stars anymore. I'm never going to watch it again. And I was in the beginning. I watched every season, fall, spring, every night, and I hated to miss it. I loved it. Frankly, and I'm not alone, think they made a big mistake getting rid of Tom Bergeron and Aaron Andrews. I thought they did fabulous. Tom was perfect for that job. And a lot of people are upset. And I have nothing against Tyra Banks. I happen to like Tyra Banks, but they should have left it alone. I think it was fine. And Carole Baskin, I was one of the few people I didn't watch 1 second of The Tiger King. However, there was a Dateline episode not too long ago about Carole Baskin and the whole story, and then did she kill her husband, which I think she did. I think she's nuts. And Brian just showed me on his phone a little snippet of her dance, which I thought was awful, and she's wooden and terrible. So thumbs down all the way around from me.
Carole Baskin got the lowest score of the night, and when you watch her actual dance on there,
you can see why.
You can, oh yeah. Like, I was trying to give the woman a chance because I thought, oh, maybe she'll end up like that grandmother that dances at the weddings that gets a little too drunk. And,
yeah.
And I guess this time she really did dance like that, but it's the worst possible version of that dance. And Carole Baskin, her whole dance was tiger theme. It was so tacky, overdone, and it's like, okay, well, let's not do this ever again. Let's not make any. And she said she's doing it for charity, which I'm like, really? What charity?
She could have done something else for charity. And it's really just, and it's not, it's Hollywood, it's television, and that's what they do. But I mean, obviously they put her on there for ratings. But I wish they would have just some kind of line that they wouldn't cross as far as being tacky, just to have some controversial person on who might bring ratings. Have some. I think it's have some class.
Yeah. And for those and the reason why I bring it up too is that in some Florida markets, because I don't think it was nationwide, Carole Baskin's husband's family, Don Lewis's family, they actually released a commercial after her dance, that pleads for the audience to give tips if anything bad, if they know anything about her.
Because they never found his body, just vanished.
And they specifically say, if Carole Baskin was involved. And I was like,
please call police. Yeah. Well, good for them. I don't blame them. And I just think the whole thing, I am not turning on 1 second of that. So I hope their ratings tank and they cancel the show.
When I did Flicks and Picks, I did give the miniseries 4 out of 4 stars because I did think that it was...
Was it well done? I don't know.
I think it was well done. It was very extensive, and I think as a piece it works. But I think in hindsight, it could also just be what I like to call pandemic syndrome, which is a piece of art will seem a little bit better.
Because you got nothing else to do and you're stuck in your house, yeah.
So for me, I'm thinking maybe I did actually just feel a little depressed and I wanted to see even worse people, on the TV.
You always feel better when you see someone worse off than you. It's terrible to say, but it's human nature. But anyway.
And that's the thing is, if you're curious, watch Dancing with the Stars performance. It's bad, but, if you need a laugh and you need to feel a little bit better about your own dancing.
Yeah, maybe then. Yeah.
Place.
All right, we're going to come back with our second hour of the Culture Corner in just a little bit. We've got Anita Rose and a lot of good stuff coming up. So I'm here with Brian Mendoza. We'll see you in just a couple minutes.